Hi everyone. In this video we're going to talk about debugging a local Profound.js program in Visual Studio Code. Now there'll be two main topics. There'll be debugging an application which is running from an endpoint, and then we'll be looking at debugging an application which is running through Genie. Now the first thing you'll need to do is go ahead and download Visual Studio Code if you haven't done so already. It's the free tool that provides debugging within Node.js. Visual Studio Code is a free source editing utility for JavaScript, C#, TypeScript, and many other languages. And it also provides a lot of debugging capabilities that we're actually going to use to debug our applications. The first thing that we're going to need to do is to open up our Profound.js installation directory as the workplace. And to do this, we're going to go File, Open Folder, or Control-K, and choose where you have installed Profound.js. In my case, it's on my D drive in the Profound.js folder. I can select it, click Select Folder. Visual Studio may refresh, but as you can see, I have my start.json, my package information, and all the files that I need within Visual Studio Code. What's neat about Visual Studio Code is that it's easy to navigate through the folder. You can easily click the tree view icons to open up a folder, and you can easily just single click a file for it to open. This way we get the nice code view. We can even select where to look on the code map, and we can easily add new code. And as you can see, I'm getting IntelliSense prompting so it can tell me what to write in. Before we start debugging, we're actually going to look at what the tabs can do. So the first tab, which we've seen, is the Workplace or Explorer, and we get a list of our files, which we've already spoken about. The second tab is the Search. So this search allows us to find and replace files within the current workplace. Easy. So if I want to search for, say, Connect4, I can search it in the search, and I can click on a file or a specific line, and it will load the code for me. The third tab is Git. If you have any of your source code within the workplace under a Git repository, then it will appear here what is changed, what you can commit, and what you need to pull. The fourth tab is the debug window, and we will use this window mainly when we are debugging our application. The fourth tab is the extensions. If there is an extension that you like within Visual Studio Code, you can search for it here and you will find it. And now we're going to start debugging our application. To do this, we're going to head over to the Debug tab. We'll notice that we don't actually have any configurations for the current workspace. To create one, we're going to select the drop down and click Add Configuration. Luckily, all the default information is acceptable to start our Profound.js server. We may want to rename the name of the configuration to Profound.js. You save it, and then you'll notice that in the debug window we have a Profound.js debug option. Make sure you have Profound.js selected and then click Start. You will notice that the debug console has appeared, and it's actually telling us that a Profound.js server is running. So if we go to this port and IP address, and then we use the endpoint we want to use, we may be able to start playing Connect4 or anything that you have running. And you can play as expected. All the hello world has been printed in our debug console that we added earlier in the video. And to simply stop debugging, we press the stop button. So now we actually want to debug our application. And if we highlight over the left side of the numbers, we'll get a little red dot appear as we pass them with the mouse. These little red dots are breakpoints. So for example, if I want to set one on this console log hello world, we'll see the little red dot and we'll click. You'll notice that the breakpoints sort of section will highlight that we have a breakpoint on our Connect4.js. So now, if we start debugging again, and the server is running, if I bring this over here and load up my Connect4, if I refresh, as you can see, it's actually broken on the hello world. And with these buttons up here, I'm actually able to step over, step into, and step out. So if I want to step over, and it will go to the execute, and as you can see, it's loaded. So now it's actually waiting for the response. So if I click something, it's gone on to the next piece. Step over, next piece, step over, next piece. You get the idea. So that's how we debug. Maybe it will be of interest if we show you how to step into a function. So for example, if we want to step into sendGrid, we'll set the breakpoint on sendGrid, and then we will start the debug server again. As we can see, ProfoundJS server running at this port, this IP address. And now, if we refresh, we've stuck on the sendGrid. This means we are actually able to step into. We can use F11 to do this as well. It will jump down to the sendGrid function. So you may find that some functions may have something like a for loop, and you don't want to actually sit through this whole loop. So what you can do is set another breakpoint towards the end of the function, like this, of course by selecting the red dot, and then letting the program continue until it actually reaches the point. And of course you can let the program continue to run again until it hits a breakpoint. So now you can see how easy it is to debug a local application. How about debugging an application which connects to your IBM I? Now this piece can get a bit more tricky, but it can easily be done. The first thing you're going to want to do is open up Genie. When the page is loaded, you'll want to go ahead and sign into your system and add ProfoundJS to your library list. This gives us access to PGSMyIP. Now we need to talk about PGSMyIP. When you call a ProfoundJS module using a stub in Genie, technically it would use the ProfoundJS server which is running on the IBM I. But if we use PGSMyIP, we can actually make it so when it calls a stub, it will point to your local machine instead of the ProfoundJS server running on the IBM I. So we have to put in the port which we've started when we start the debug. So for example, mine is 8081. So now, when I call a ProfoundJS stub, instead of calling the ProfoundJS server running on the I, it will call the ProfoundJS server running on my local machine. And we can prove this by going to Work Environment Variables. You'll notice that ProfoundJS communication port and ProfoundJS communication host point to your local machine. To start debugging the application, you actually need to bring the source that you want to debug and its dependencies onto your local machine. In my case, I've gone ahead and brought down some of the files from the demolib modules, and I have claim06R, claim06D, and claim subfile. Now simply, to start debugging, I'm going to open up my claim06R, set a breakpoint, and then start debugging. Simple. I have a debug point now. So now I'm going to go ahead on my Genie session and actually call the program. To do this, I have a menu set up, so I can call demolib/menu3. I can take an option 6, and then Visual Studio Code has already loaded up for me on the breakpoint. And from here, of course, I'm able to step through, jump into. You get the idea. So I could jump into this load subfile, and I'm in the load subfile. But I'll just let it continue, and of course my screen will load. And generally that's how easy it is to debug an application that runs through your IBM I. And of course, while it's running on my local machine, it's actually gone ahead and still fetched the data from the IBM I itself through the Genie session. And I'll just go ahead and exit out of this. And of course, I can still carry on debugging. I can do option 6 again. Visual Studio Code will load, and I can just click continue, and the page will load.